Hello, my friend, it's Gina. Thank you for continuing the long journey in the effort to find justice for Elizabeth. This is an account that's based on a true story, one that, as of this recording, remains ongoing. Welcome back to Lost Sister, a Discarded Woman, Episode 16. Content warning: this and future episodes contain sensitive topics and may cause distress to some listeners. Hearing disturbing actions of oppression, manipulation, and abuse can bring up painful memories, personal struggles, and trauma for many. Narrator's note: the names have been changed and places are purposefully arbitrary to protect the privacy of those involved. This podcast is our way of telling Catherine and Elizabeth's story so that others can be aware of potential future issues. The central figures in our story include Catherine, her sister Elizabeth, Elizabeth's husband Walter, and Walter's granddaughter Darcy. Additional figures are Charles, Catherine and Elizabeth's elder brother, and Elizabeth's legal guardian, as well as the attorney who represents Elizabeth's family, Alex. The podcast team and I are asking that if one of our listeners happens to know someone who might know someone with big media contacts, please share this podcast story. The FBI agent who's assigned to Elizabeth's case has advised Catherine to try to emphasize the importance of public attention to this type of crime. And if someone in the media might be convinced to take an interest in this particular case as well. And we thank you. A quick recap of episode 15, where we discovered how to spot abuse in others, and a tougher perspective about how to recognize abuse happening to ourselves, spotting red flags, and how abusers misuse their power or control. Many people will do anything to hide the abuse and even protect their abuser. It is humiliating and embarrassing to admit, but it's all too real for way too many people. As far as financial abuse, well, if you or someone you care about is suddenly finding it difficult to pay their bills or become overly protective of their money or personal possessions, pay attention and be ready to listen. There are suggestions on what to say, what to do, as well as some do nots. Now, let's continue our story by beginning with a sidebar. No one on the Lost Sister podcast team, nor myself, are attorneys, but every one of us knows attorneys, both personally and professionally. We have interviewed and hired attorneys for various reasons. Personally, there have been a few attorneys that are near and dear to my heart to this day. In this episode, we're sharing our own experiences, plus information from research we've conducted. In an old Forbes article titled, "It's Okay to Hate Lawyers," it states, people hate lawyers because they represent the interest of people and corporations without really caring who they are, what they did, what harm they caused, or how culpable they are. Yeah, you know what a gut punch it is when you first learn that our justice system isn't just flawed, but that it is stacked against the poorest and most vulnerable in our society. Probably because we've recited the "and justice for all" our entire lives. But then following that up with a kick in the ass is finding out that some law firms and attorneys can be less than honest, give poor or bad advice, cut corners, or even worse, overtly lie to their clients. But here you are. You've decided you need an attorney. Now what? Finding the right attorney takes time. We all know that one of the best sources for hiring anyone is to ask friends or family for recommendations. Now, that's true for lawyers too. First things first, make an appointment for a consultation. Be prepared to concisely discuss the outline of your case. Write down your questions and their answers so you can compare lawyers after you finish the interview process. Remember, this is a person and their staff that you're going to be working closely with, sharing sensitive and sometimes intimate information, possibly over a long period of time. Here are some questions to consider. What's their experience in your type of case? What is their expert opinion on the range of possible outcomes of your case? In long-term cases, most attorneys charge a retainer fee up front, which is a deposit against future legal services. You should be aware that every time an attorney takes a call, answers an email or a text message, there is a minimum amount charged to the account. Many offices bill in increments by the quarter hour or half hour. According to a recent legal industry survey, the national average lawyer fee in the United States is $327 an hour. A good lawyer will lay out a coherent strategy. A good lawyer will demonstrate strategic thinking, creativity, adaptability. A good lawyer is a problem solver. A good lawyer will coach you on what and how to respond to questions in the courtroom and/or a deposition. Signs of an incompetent lawyer when they show a lack of respect for client confidentiality. They have no issues with ethical misconduct. They show a lack of integrity and competence and overpromises and underdelivers. Indifferent lawyers tend to be consistently tardy, rude, ineffective communicator with a pessimistic attitude. What happens when things go wrong with your own attorney? Well, you can lodge a complaint about an attorney through the State Bar Association. In most states, the complaint must be submitted in hard copy form along with the association's online form, and it usually needs to be notarized just to be accepted. It's not a simple process, but the process itself should be that the Bar Association's lawyers will review the complaint. If your complaint does provide facts that may constitute professional misconduct, it should be forwarded to the lawyer for a response and will also be assigned to a staff attorney in the office of the Bar Counsel for analysis and investigation. If the Bar Association determines that the complaint doesn't constitute an ethical violation, the case will be closed and the complainant will be notified by mail. Catherine filed 3 separate complaints with the State Bar Association based on the fact that Darcy's attorney, 1, completed a new will prior to Walter's death despite his obvious physical and mental health issues, as well as they failed to ask if he had a living spouse. In fact, during a deposition, Attorney 1 couldn't even describe Walter. Darcy's attorney 2 was aware that the family was trying to find Elizabeth prior to filing probate after Walter's death, but still directed Darcy that she could move money into her own personal account and created an LLC for her. The third complaint was due to the fact that Darcy's attorney 3 disregarded the judge's direct order not to touch any of the inheritance money. All of this led to issues that inevitably robbed Elizabeth of not only her financial assets, but isolated her from her family and accelerated a decline in her health. A response to the filed complaint came within a couple of weeks with the statement, which I'll paraphrase here, "Your complaint has been received and will be forwarded to each lawyer for their response, which will then go through a review process." Well, hey, that was pretty fast and promising, right? About 10 days later, Catherine receives a letter in the mail from the Bar Association. Well, it turns out that each attorney in question completely denied any wrongdoing. Surprise! So, hold on there. You got to be kidding. An attorney who's been accused of misconduct is their own witness. The only witness. And that's it? That's all there is? Hell's bells. No wonder our justice system is bullshit. The letter ended with, "Case closed." But wait, there's one more avenue. If she wished to pursue it further, the family has the right to file a civil suit against each of the different attorneys. Sure, why not? This family doesn't have anything else to do, or pay for, or worry about. Ain't that just one more kick in the ass? And here's me, hoping that the Bar Association is legit. Sure seems to be just another black hole in an overall corrupt system. I'm going to add a few do's and don'ts with your own attorney. Do be honest and upfront. This is no time to be vague or evasive. Do be clear and concise. Time is money for both of you. Let your attorney do their job. Do not speak out in court unless the judge asks you a direct question. Think first, then be clear and concise with your answer. Courtrooms are considered a solemn place. A certain decorum is expected by everyone in attendance. In the courtroom or at a deposition, dress and groom appropriately. Stand and sit up straight. Remain quiet and as still as possible until called on. Be aware of facial expressions because it does matter. The same goes for anyone involved with the case, whether they are scheduled to speak or not. Only answer the question asked. Never, ever add anything else. Yes or no is just fine when appropriate. Don't add to the original statement or change your story during testimony. The only time anyone other than an attorney or a judge speaks is when called upon by an attorney or the judge themselves. A few times when I was in attendance at hearings about Elizabeth, Darcy spoke directly to the judge. And I promise you, it was apparent she was not coached by her attorneys to do so. The judge cut her off, not once, but twice. And believe me, there was no gold star for her either time, neither from the judge nor her attorney. What a wackadoo performance that was. In my humble opinion, Elizabeth's family were extremely lucky to find Alex, an attorney who has proved to be gracious to the family, especially with their time. Not only that, but after speaking several times with Alex myself, I honestly don't think anyone could have found a better fit for this case. As for Darcy's choice of attorneys, well, to say they have been a varied crew would be too simple. All but one has been under the age of 40. The latest, well over that age. Most have seemed to be relatively capable, at least in court. But why does someone continuously change attorneys? I've been using the term attorney hopping for lack of a better, more standardized term. So why hop? My research has shown that the most common reasons are 1, non-payment by the client, obviously. 2, dissatisfaction with an attorney by the client, possible. Or 3, a dissatisfaction with the client by the attorney, especially number 1 and number 3 are red flags. Remember, it's a small town, even though all of the attorneys are most likely not great friends. But there's little doubt that they are all at the very least acquainted. And we know for a fact that the courthouse staff are well versed with Elizabeth's case. So it's to be expected that the attorneys who frequent the courthouse, well, they know what's going on too. Whether it's hearsay or not, who would want to be Darcy's attorney at this point? Maybe that's why the latest attorney isn't local. Which brings us to the latest happenings in the civil lawsuit between Charles, who is acting as Elizabeth's guardian, versus Darcy. Alex filed the lawsuit, which finally went in front of the judge. The family and Alex agreed that they would request a bench trial, which means no jury, just the judge would hear both sides, then render their decision. Bench trials are said to be the quickest to get on the docket, as well as not having to hope that people are honest when seated on a jury. Just because they're asking for the quickest route doesn't mean that they expect to have it on the books in the next week. You're looking at several months out just to get on the docket. Well, that didn't go as planned. Darcy's attorney, Four, told the judge that they were new to the case, even though they came on the scene months ago. And then they cited that they didn't have all the discoveries they needed and that they would need plenty of time to prepare, noting that it would take them a year before they would be ready for trial. The judge obviously believed Darcy's attorney, Four, and set the trial over a year out. And to top that off by ordering mediation as well, which is where a neutral third party will attempt to resolve the conflict with an acceptable agreement to both parties. Like that'll happen. So far, Darcy's attempts at resolution have been to offer insulting figures, to give Elizabeth less money than she spends on attorneys and real estate. Okay, breathe. Remember to just breathe, Gina. But a whole bloody year? You have got to be frickin' kidding me. Well. Miss Darcy gets her way again. Not only is she free to enjoy the fruits of Elizabeth's lifetime of work that she's already spent, i.e. the McMansion and other properties, but to continue to spend like the money is hers to do whatever the hell she wants. She can continue to buy properties, to travel freely, to move money who knows where, to even flee this jurisdiction at her leisure if she so chooses. Darcy's game, if you will, is the let's just run out the clock strategy. She didn't invent that scheme, but sadly, Darcy will certainly not be the last to attempt this immoral behavior. Delay, hoping that she can hold off any legal verdict until Elizabeth dies. She seems to truly believe that if she can hold the courts at bay long enough, that when Elizabeth dies, Darcy will be totally free and in the clear. To be honest, that's the way it's going to play out, unless there is ever enough evidence to charge Darcy with criminal behavior that can be proven in court beyond a reasonable doubt. And what about Elizabeth? As it stands right now, Elizabeth does not have the funds to be able to stay in the current facility another 12 months. Certainly no longer. Did the judge take Elizabeth into consideration? Did they even ask about her health, her welfare? No? So, just another old woman, a discarded woman. What is it about Elizabeth and others just like her? Why do so few people care? Well, I sure as hell do. I damn well care. A lot. Please, if you care too about all of the Elizabeths everywhere, share this story. Maybe together we can find someone who will care too. Someone who just might care enough to elevate our Elizabeth to a height that many, many more will be seen as well. I do hope you join us soon for episode 17, titled, "What the Hell is This?" Abuse in all forms is an equal opportunity instrument of control, regardless of age, gender, IQ, education, or socioeconomic status. Whatever your age, for your own sake and those who care about you, please establish a living will. Keep it somewhere your chosen caretakers can access it. And if you don't have your assets in order, make plans right now to do so. Talk to an attorney and/or an investment institution you trust and make it happen before it's too late. The terms elder abuse, elder neglect, and elder fraud are relatively new. In general, elder abuse is a term referring to any knowing, intentional, or neglectful act by a caregiver or any other person that causes harm or a serious risk of harm to a vulnerable elderly person. Legislators in all 50 states have passed some form of elder abuse prevention laws. A good place to start for more information is the website justice.gov/elderjustice. And if you suspect elder abuse, there is help. The National Elder Fraud Hotline is 1-833-FRAUD-11. That's 833-372-8311. Check out the National Adult Protective Services Association, or NAPA, to find help in your area. Their website is napsa-now.org. A fantastic resource is the National Center on Elder Abuse website, ncea.acl.gov. The National Domestic Violence Hotline is 1-800-799-SAFE. That's 800-799-7233. These links and phone numbers are also located on the Lost Sister webpage at lostsister.buzzsprout.com. It's also located on our Facebook page, Lost Sister, a Discarded Woman podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, please like, follow, subscribe, and share with your friends and family. By gaining a wider audience, we hope to bring attention to not only Elizabeth and Catherine's story, but to shine an enormous light on all domestic abuse, elder abuse, domestic violence, and elder fraud. We are still hoping one of our listeners knows of someone who could help hold that spotlight. Someone with a wider audience, especially in the media. We truly believe that so much more must be done to protect the vulnerable in our society. Our hope is by sharing Elizabeth and Catherine's story that it might help others to avoid the same happening to them or someone they love. Thank you.